everyone, today's video is going to be all about Pan That palette, but instead about an update of this Pan That palette, it's going to be about next year's palette. So if you don't know, Pan That palette's where you try to get through an entire eyeshadow palette in a year. Now, I've already kind of decided that that's not going to happen for me, so instead of trying to get through it in a year, I'm trying to get through it in 2 years. So what I've done is I chose last year, or I guess in January, the Lorac Tale as Old as Time Beauty and the Beast palette. And so I've decided that by next January, or January of 2019, I would like to have pan on all 16 shades. And then by the following January, so January 2020, it'll be completely empty. So that's the plan. So just if you want to see, I mean, I do updates, but this is where we are now. These are the shades in case you're not really familiar with the palette. So I'll be working on this palette again all of 2019. But I decided, because working for 2 years on the same palette will get boring, that I wanted to add in another palette. And so then in 2019, the goal will be to hit pan on all the shades, and then the next year I'll try to use it up. And so then I'll be working on 2 palettes at once, if that makes sense. But this is the first, like I said, this is the Lorac Beauty and the Beast palette. So I've been thinking for a little while about what palette I want to pan next year. And I've kind of got it down to a top 6. So you can tell that with this palette, it's predominantly neutral. There are some pinks. It's very cute. I have this green on today from another eyeshadow that I'm currently panning. But it's predominantly neutral. There's not a lot of color. And if you watch me, then you know color is what I like. I like to use a lot of color. So I do want a colorful palette. So let's just go ahead and talk about the 6 options. First, the Sephora Minnie's World in Color palette. I do really enjoy this palette. I have a pretty nice dip in this shade Starlet and a tiny one in this shade Mickey Squeeze. This was a weekly product pan not that long ago. So I like all of these shades. Now a couple of them, these blues are not the best. I will admit that. And this green is again not so awesome. So there are some kind of dud shades, but I'd still have to get through them. Each pan, or each row, is a different pan size. So there are 20 shades. These 2 are the smallest. These 2 rows are the medium, and then that one in the middle is the largest. And I feel like this is a pretty all-encompassing palette, which would mean that I wouldn't really, I don't know, I feel like it'd be kind of hard to use both of these because I'd be drawing for this one a lot. I also will say, the mattes in this palette, like these 2 shades are matte, that one's matte, that one's matte, that one, and that one. They last a really long time. They're not super powdery. So I don't know, it makes me nervous because this one also has a lot of matte, so I'm not sure how that would work. But this is the first option. The second option is the Urban Decay Electric palette. This has 10 eyeshadows. Now technically these 2 and these 2, so 4 of the 10 you're not supposed to use on the eyes. Well, really they're not FDA approved, so they're, they can stain your eyes. Sometimes they're a little bit irritating. So that makes me nervous. Also, these 2 on the end, what are they? Revolt and Chaos, they're not very good. Chaos is extremely, extremely patchy, and it doesn't give as much pigment. Revolt is pretty much just like a silver glitter top coat. So I don't love those 2 shades. 4 of them I can't really use on the lid. But I think this would be really cool in conjunction with the Lorac palette. I think it would give me a lot of color, but it wouldn't take away too much. And the fact that it's only got 10 shades is also kind of alluring to me. Now each of these has 1.2 grams in it. So that is this palette, option number 2. Option number 3 is the Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass palette. I love this palette. It's got 20 shades as well. They're each 1.3 grams. Now you can see I do already have pan on the shade Hatter. So that was good. That kind of puts me ahead a little bit. I feel like this is a complete palette. Like I can just use this palette a lot and get it full looks. Now it does have a decent amount of browns. If you look at it, we've got Dormouse, Chessboard, Kingdom, and Chromosphere. They're all browns. So that kind of will help neutralize a look. This shade Dream On is pretty, but you have to use a glitter glue. If you don't use a glitter glue, you're kind of screwed. So that one is a little hard to work with. This Navy Bandersnatch, also kind of patchy. So, there are faults in this palette, but it's really nice. It's a really cool palette. I do like it. And I feel like I could get a lot of work on it. And I feel like it would complement this palette nicely. You know, it'll give me some color to play with, but I don't know, I feel like it could work. So that's option number 3. Let's put it away. And also the good thing about this, well, both of these palettes is when I do use them up, that's a lot of packaging out of my collection, which I like that too. Option number 4, Urban Decay Vice 4 palette. This has 20 eyeshadows that are each 0.8 grams a piece. And you can see I have some significant pan on the shade Flame. Now this palette is very much a shimmery palette, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because this is very much, what I'm going to have left is going to be a lot of mattes. So, you know, we could have mattes here, pull for lids here. I do feel like it's a unique palette. These 3 greens can look a little similar on the eye, which I don't love because it's like, you know, I feel like that's kind of redundant. We've got these 4 purples there, which I like purples a lot. So, I don't know. I think this is a pretty good possibility. Like I said, I already have pan in one shade, so again, I'm a little bit ahead of the game. I don't know. I'm intrigued. So, that's the Vice 4 palette? And yeah, it is Vice 4. 5th option, Urban Decay Full Spectrum palette. This one would be really, really hard, I think. So each of these has 1.2 grams in it, and there are 21 shades. I don't have pan in any of them. Now, I will say, I used Calavera for like weeks at a time, and there's like no dip at all. So they're very hard pressed. This is obviously a rainbow palette. It's very colorful. There's no really neutrals in here, which would make it hard to do a full look at. Not impossible. You can definitely get one. I like a lot of colors, so it's, you know, but I do think that I just stuck my fingers in some shadow. Oopsies. But I think with this, the Lorac would really balance it out nicely. So, intriguing. I do like the idea of it. I think this would be a very challenging palette to do. And I'm afraid that I wouldn't meet my goal of hitting pan on all 21 shades. So, I don't know. It's challenging, but intriguing. So, that is the Urban Decay Full Spectrum, the 5th option. And option numero 6 is the Urban Decay Urban Spectrum. Now, each one of these is 1.3 grams of shadow, and there are 15 shades. Again, this packaging is not the best. It's not my favorite packaging. So the fact that I could also be rid of this in the end of 2 years would be really nice. These are all shimmery shades, all lid shades. Now, not necessarily, you know, you can use them everywhere. I am using this palette for my sister's wedding. She's gonna have Daybreak on her lid, and then we're gonna put some, it's Deep End. Some Deep End on her lower lash line. She has blue eyes and she likes to wear blue eyeshadow, and she wants blue eyeshadow for her wedding, so we're gonna do that. So it's kind of like a tealy blue, but yeah. We're using this for my sister's wedding. It's a really gorgeous palette. It's got some unique shades. I think, again, with the mattes in here, and even with the shimmers, I just feel like that makes a nice combination. I have worked some on Voodoo. It was in a project a while ago. It has a little bit of a dip. So, this one I think would be a fun palette to pan. So those are my 6 options. I don't know. I can't really decide. I go back and forth between the 6. So I was wondering if y'all could help me maybe. You know, give me what y'all thought, what your opinions are, whether you think, oh yeah, that would be a great one to pan. Ooh, that one might not be so great. Again, keep in mind that I'll also be working on this palette as well, for as long as it lives. This palette will be a part of it too. So, there we go. That's pretty much what I have for y'all today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like kind of hearing me think about what I want to do. I know I've seen other people do videos like this, and I really enjoyed it because it's nice to know people's thought processes when they're choosing items to pan. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, if you have any questions, requests, suggestions, comments, go ahead and leave those down below, and I'll just see y'all real soon. Bye.